I'm Emily. Jake, 2 years older than me, is a science guy. He's living his childhood dream of a research job and seems fulfilled even though he's busy all day. Our son Mike is 3 years old. Just like Jake, he loves observing and experimenting. Right now, he's obsessed with the goldfish he caught at the fall festival. Our daughter Sarah is 1 year old. She loves to eat, and her chubby white cheeks are just adorable. She's the comfort and joy of our household. Overall, life is pretty good for our ordinary family, except for one thing. Emily, what's for dinner tonight? Mother-in-law. Just as I was trying to calm down my crying daughter and finish up dinner, the doorbell rang. Without any hesitation, my mother-in-law walks into our home as she often does. It might not be the same day every week, but she shows up around this time frequently enough that Mike hardly even looks away from the TV. My goodness, fried food again? That's not good, so oily. You need to take better care of Jake's stomach when he comes home tired from work. It's not good for the grandkids either. But Mike really likes it. Well, that's because you only feed him junk. Look, I've made a creamy vegetable stew and minestrone for you. It's important for the kids to get used to Western food from an early age. My mother-in-law starts setting the table with the large containers of creamy stew and minestrone she brought. It's a lot, enough to last for at least 3 days, and I feel a little down just looking at the stew, which is mostly just carrots and cabbage. Come on, stop daydreaming. I'll take the food you made home with me, so go ahead and pack it up. It's not tasty, but we can't waste food. This is routine. Last time she visited unexpectedly, she replaced my clam chowder with her own fried chicken. Holding the still warm container, she left without even looking at her grandchildren. Once the front door closed, my son turned to me softly. Grandma took my fried chicken again. My heart aches seeing my son's sad face. Don't worry, there's a little bit of meat left. Just wait a moment. Yay! As I heat up the oil again, I feel relieved seeing my son's joyful reaction to my words. However, my inner dissatisfaction remains. My mother-in-law has been overly intrusive since my marriage, but it's gotten worse over the last year. Every week she shows up unannounced during dinner prep time. Initially, she would just criticize my cooking and parenting, then leave her cream stew on the counter. But for the past 6 months, she's started taking my food home with her, effectively ruining our meal. I can't imagine my mother-in-law, who lives alone since my father-in-law passed away, eating all 3 servings. She's probably throwing it away. As I prepare baby food and distract the kids, I manage to cook. It's tough, but seeing my family's happy faces keeps me going. Yet, my fried chicken, braised pork, mapo tofu, and hamburgers, all of it gets taken away. I grew up in a family that ran a restaurant, and my dad taught me how to cook. So I'm confident in my culinary skills. And yes, I think my food tastes better than mother-in-law's overly sweet cream stew. It irks me to have my skills negated by her. But with Mike in the picture, I've been struggling to stand up to my mother-in-law, his grandma. More cream stew? Jake, who comes home after the kids have gone to sleep, makes a face when he sees dinner. Since only Mike's share of fried chicken was left, I served Jake a large platter of the cream stew. What can I do? It's what mother-in-law brings over. If you don't like it, you tell her. Yeah, I guess. Jake pokes at the stew, as non-committal as ever. She shows up without considering Sarah's nap time and even takes away Mike's favorite foods right in front of him. Well, she's lonely since Dad died. That was 2 years ago. How much longer do I have to put up with this? Yeah, I guess. Ugh. Jake is usually reliable, but he avoids confrontation when mother-in-law is involved. Another pointless conversation goes by, and I let out a deep sigh. The only silver lining is that she hasn't suggested moving in. One day, tired of the same old routine, mother-in-law says something different when she drops by during dinner as usual. "Emily, this Christmas everyone's gathering at our place." "What?" "After your father passed away last year, we couldn't really do anything, right? We've been relying on relatives from Dad's side since the funeral, so I'm inviting them to our home as a way of saying thank you." Sounds exhausting. Responding with a lack of enthusiasm to my mother-in-law's arrogant tone, I wonder how she plans to host people suddenly when we've always gathered at her brother-in-law's or her own childhood home for Christmas and family reunions. She frowns at me, looking like she's dealing with someone of lesser intelligence. "You're not just a bystander here, you'll be helping too." "What?" "Come over on the 24th and help clean up." Stunned by the audacious decision, I try to quickly object. "But Sarah is so young." "Just use a baby carrier or something. That's how women used to do it back in the day." "Maybe, but you're also in charge of the full-course Christmas meal. Don't you dare repackage store-bought food or cook anything that tastes bad. I don't want to be embarrassed." "What? You can't be serious." "I'm thinking of inviting your dad's relatives on one day and my sister's family and our daughter on another. It'll be a busy holiday." Although she's complaining, I can sense a happy aura coming from her. Hold on, the one who's going to be busy is me, not you. As the daughter-in-law of this family's eldest son, do your duty properly, okay? Having had her say, my satisfied mother-in-law leaves the meatloaf and heads out, leaving me stunned and my surprised son behind. She doesn't forget to pack the shrimp gratin that just needs to be baked, though. That night, when I tell Jake about it, he's as bewildered as I am. What? She's planning a party from Christmas, even inviting Dad's side of the family when he's not here? Yes, that's the plan. Well, maybe Mom's lonely. I finally lose my temper at Jake's predictable response. Think about what it's like for me, always being pushed around. Seeing Jake's face turn to an unmistakable uh-oh, he goes silent. But even he realizes that this time it's too much and lets out a resigned sigh. "All right, I'll handle the cleaning and entertaining the relatives." "Really?" I'm glad to hear Jake's proposal. It gives me some direction. "But can you still cook the full-course Christmas meal?" Just for this year, let's keep Mom's reputation intact. Plus, everyone in the family loves your cooking." As he pleads, Jake is staring at the meatloaf mother-in-law left for us. I mean, it's hard to say no after making a concession. "Fine, just for this year." "Thanks. Man, I can't wait for Emily's Christmas feast." "Geez, you're in high spirits, aren't you?" Being praised isn't so bad, and I don't mind cooking for people. So I brace myself that it's just for this time and agree to prepare a full-course Christmas meal. When I tell my mother-in-law that Jake will stay over to help with cleaning, she makes a displeased face and says, "How could you let the man of the house do such things?" But she seemed reasonably satisfied seeing Jake bustle around at his parents' home for my sake. And then comes Christmas lunchtime. "Emily, is the corn soup ready?" "I'm preparing the croutons now." I scurry around the kitchen, getting the carpaccio and corn soup ready. "You're so inefficient. I'll bring the food myself." "I'm sorry. If you're going to complain, try preparing a meal for 20 people. It's really, truly exhausting." Finally, the serving is done, and I sit down at the party. Jake seems to have put our daughter down for a nap in another room. Preparing a full-course Christmas meal for 20 people was hard, but it feels good to see everyone enjoying my cooking. However, that good feeling lasts only a moment. "This quiche looks so beautiful. It's like something you'd buy." Thank you? Geez, you're good at flattery. This carrot slaw is perfectly balanced with the vinegar. The orange scent really freshens up your mouth. That's because Christmas meals tend to be rich, so I made it a bit more acidic. Something's off. Every time someone tries to compliment my Christmas cooking, mother-in-law interrupts. Something is not right. And the source of this awkwardness is revealed by Sophia, father-in-law's sister. Emily's mother-in-law is such a great cook, isn't she? Excuse me? Confused, I let out a dumbfounded sound. Unperturbed, Chatterbox Sophia continues her story. Did Olivia make this entire Christmas feast? That's amazing! Huh? I haven't cooked a full-course Christmas meal in ages. I was going to leave it to my daughter-in-law, but she's absolutely terrible in the kitchen, and she never comes by, even when I offer to teach her. What? The mother-in-law talks about struggles she never even faced as if they're a given, leaving me puzzled. Oh, Emily, you should really take after Olivia while she's still well. Jake might miss the taste of home sometimes. You know the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Daniel, a relative hanging around Sophia, laughs. It feels like he's mocking me. You know, Olivia, that pork belly stew you made last time was delicious. It's amazing you can cook both Western and Japanese dishes. It's not that big of a deal, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. The mother-in-law smiles and feigns humility, but that pork belly stew was clearly my creation. As I stand there astonished, she mouths, "Go along with it." Apparently, she's been claiming all my dishes, including the Christmas feast, as her own and sharing them with the family. And now she wants me to be complicit in her lie? No way. Especially after she's been criticizing my cooking all this time. Though I want to speak out, I'm overwhelmed by the crowd and find myself speechless. My savior turns out to be my son. Mom, this omelet is really tasty. It looks different than usual, but your omelets are always good. My young son's high-pitched voice echoes through the room, and the noisy adults fall silent. Oh, Mike, this is actually a quiche your grandmother made. Sophia tries to cover for my son, probably out of kindness. But my son responds, astonished. Huh? But it's tasty. What? It's tasty, so it's got to be Mom's omelet. Grandma's omelet is super sweet and gritty. It doesn't taste good. My son passionately insists, gesticulating wildly, leaving the adults exchanging puzzled glances. Of course, the mother-in-law panics. Emily, don't teach the child to lie. Excuse me? Who's the one lying here? Mom, am I a liar? Mike looks up at me, his face full of insecurity. That's when I felt my blood boil. I was foolish. I don't care what people think of my mother-in-law or Jake. I've put up with her because she's Jake's mom and Mike's grandmother. But a grandmother who turns her grandson into a liar just to save face is nothing but evil. If she's going to make my child a liar, I'll become a demon if I have to. I took a deep breath and straightened my back. Mike is not a liar. The one lying here is you, Grandma. Huh? She must have never expected me to stand up to her. My mother-in-law looked shocked. I stood up and pointed at the table dramatically. I made this entire Christmas feast, including the corn soup. Everything from start to finish. What? Naturally, the room erupted. My flustered mother-in-law began to panic and yell. Wait, Emily! You've been lying this whole time. Have you lost your mind? I'm not lying. Sophia, you said you got the pork belly stew from Grandma, right? Sophia, now pulled into this, looked up at me, surprised. Yes, it was delicious. I made that too. Huh? You're terrible, stealing credit for Jake's mom's cooking and trying to set her up. You're the worst daughter-in-law. Then can you tell me the recipe for the pork belly stew, mother-in-law? What? Can you? Well... She hesitated. Then, as if struck by inspiration, she shouted, It's a secret! It's a secret family recipe, so I can't tell you in public. You don't have to give details or measurements, just the basics. Even the relatives who were disgusted by our petty fight started to see who was in the right. Emily, that's enough. My husband Jake had apparently finished putting our daughter to sleep. He had silently appeared near the door and restrained me with a stern voice and face. My mother-in-law clung to Jake as if he was her ally, looking like a tragic heroine. Jake, what's up with your daughter-in-law? She's calling me a liar. That's awful. Mom, you're the awful one here. What? Mother-in-law's mouth drops open. This entire Christmas feast, Emily made it all day while taking care of the kids. Trying to take credit for it is pretty low. Jake! Sophia, the only thing Mom made is that massive bowl of creamy stew over there. Have you tried it? Huh? Yeah. Sophia, once again caught in the middle, looks at the pointed-out creamy stew, visibly shaken. Is she recalling how incredibly sweet that stew was? Yeah, it was insanely sweet, wasn't it? Mom thinks if it's sweet, it's tasty. She's always been so cautious about salt and oil, but uses sugar with no limits. So all her dishes taste like a block of sugar. Is that so? The pork belly stew was probably made by my daughter-in-law, too. If you got any other dishes from Mom recently, they were likely made by Emily. Really? Even that meatloaf? That was me. And the mapo tofu and shrimp gratin? That was me. Everyone in the family is disillusioned with mother-in-law because of her own son's revelation. Isn't that right, Mom? Mother-in-law, exposed for all her lies, is panicking. Seems like she's given up on lying and is now trying to appeal to Jake's emotions. Why are you siding with your daughter-in-law? I'm your mom. I didn't want to have to say this either, Mom. I thought you were just lonely because Dad isn't here, so I've been having Emily put up with you. But this isn't anything but harassment towards her. There's no reason to protect you anymore. Don't see Emily or the kids ever again. Jake, who firmly dismisses his begging mother, starts to clean up the Christmas feast. Then he apologizes to the relatives. I'm sorry for the disturbance this Christmas. Emily, Mike, let's go. Jake! As Jake takes Mike's hand and stands up, Mike glances at mother-in-law. Grandma, where's your I'm sorry? Huh? When you lie, you say I'm sorry. Then you get forgiven, right? Isn't that right, Mom? I get it. You have to be forgiving when it comes to raising kids. But a simple sorry isn't going to cut it. Luckily, I didn't have to worry for even a second. Mother-in-law clenched her lips so tightly they looked like they'd bleed, clearly having no intention of apologizing. Seeing her, Jake sighed as if he'd had enough. Grandma can't even say I'm sorry, and she's supposed to be an adult. How sad. Let's go home and have Mom's delicious Christmas feast. Okay. We left behind a growling mother-in-law and confused relatives, carrying our sleeping daughter and the Christmas feast as we left Mike's house. We went straight to my parents' place and served the Christmas feast. Everyone was delighted and ate with joy. This is what I had been striving for, so my heart was full. Jake, of course, apologized profusely and promised never to let us meet mother-in-law again. Apparently, the atmosphere at Mike's house remained awkward. His relatives dispersed, leaving only a soulless mother-in-law and some bland food. The next day, mother-in-law's sister and her husband, as well as Jake's sister, visited as promised. Seeing the bland food, they chuckled and said, "Figures." Apparently, mother-in-law's lack of cooking skills was a well-known fact among her relatives. So you brag about hosting a Christmas feast? I wondered what magic trick you'd pull. Probably just jealous of Emily, who's good at cooking and praised by Jake and Mike. Sorry for the inconvenience, they said. After hearing the details from Jake, my sister-in-law thanked me for my efforts. Sophia also called to apologize. I'm sorry for jumping to conclusions. It turns out Sophia also enjoys cooking, and we bonded over a recipe for braised pork belly. The misunderstanding with Jake was cleared up, and I found new friends who share my cooking hobby. I felt refreshed, enjoying a carefree Christmas. Of course, Mother-in-law wasn't going to back down that easily, but I'm well prepared. As I'm making cornbread, my phone rings. It's Mother-in-law. Excuse me, where are you? It's dinner time. Do your duty as a wife. Are you making the same mistake and coming over again? She's furious on the other end of the line. How dare you? I came here because you didn't apologize. Come home and clear the misunderstanding with our relatives. Then I'll forgive you for embarrassing me. No thanks. What? You'll be the one left out by the family. That won't be a problem. What? To begin with, the one who put on airs and got shunned by the relatives was Mother-in-law. I've even made plans to cook with Sophia next time. What? Mother-in-law probably never imagined that I'd become close to father-in-law's side of the family. In other words, I'm well aware that Mother-in-law has distanced herself from father-in-law's relatives. So, what now? Still got any moves left? I add another blow to the stunned mother-in-law. Also, I'm not returning to that house. What? Yes, the kids and I have been staying at my parents' house since Christmas. We're planning to find a new place to live now that the holidays are over. Initially, living near Mike's family was mother-in-law's strong insistence, but Jake's workplace is actually closer to my parents' house. Didn't Jake tell you to stay away from daughter-in-law? But since mother-in-law can't listen better than a child, we've decided to physically distance ourselves. Right now, Jake is the only one living there, and he'll leave once he's ready. What? Where are you? Who knows? You think you can get away with not cherishing Jake's mom? Yes, because Jake and sister-in-law have forgiven me, it's okay. Well, wait, what? Thank you for everything so far, mother-in-law. I'm so happy I'll never have to see you again. Goodbye. Wait a minute! With a bit of a laugh, I hang up on mother-in-law, who's screaming like a villain in a superhero show. Then I block her number to make sure I never have to hear her voice again. 2 years later. Mom, what's for dinner today? Hamburgers. Yay! I love Mom's burgers the most in the world. Sarah loves them too. Sarah loves them too. Dad loves them the most in the universe. Aw, Dad, that's not fair. My family happily waits for my cooking in the living room, playing around, as I fry the burgers in the kitchen. My heart warms up again today, watching them eagerly await my cooking, smiles on their faces.